Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to the library tour of Doom. Different library, same Doom. We're going through the books one by one, and we're doing them one day at a time. And today we're doing something that you would encounter in either of the libraries that I'm culling from here, and that's this thing. Byron's Letters and Journals, a new selection. This is edited by somebody named Richard Lansdowne. That is what our editor looks like. And this is a collection that those of you who only have a glancing familiarity with the world of poetry will wonder why. You'll think, what could possibly be the literary appeal here? I've heard that Byron is a poet, and I've heard some people say, not in the 21st century, that he's a great poet. But why would I want to read his letters and journals? And you might even have noticed that Oxford University Press has a similar volume for John Keats, and you might have wondered what the appeal is. And in both cases, although we're only doing this book today, I can tell you what the appeal is, and that is that these authors were great at these things. Byron kept sporadic journals, and his letters are unbelievable. They're unbelievably good. They captivate, and changing literary tastes being what they are, they captivate more than his poetry does nowadays. His poetry is very elusive, it's very literate and alliterative, it's very melodic and extremely structured. It's incredibly intelligent and acerbic and knowing. It expects you to meet Byron halfway and to share a lot of his sophistication about the literary world, the social world, the political world, and not to cast any doubt on any shade on the 21st century, but show me the young reader, especially. Most of his readers in his own day were young. Show me the young reader who can do that today. It's not their fault. It's their preparation, their education, one way or another. Everything about Byron's poetry has gone by the board. We don't expect poetry to be structured anymore. We don't expect it to adhere to scansion anymore. We don't expect it to refer to literature anymore. We don't expect it to be fun anymore at all, unless it's purely scatological. We don't expect any of that stuff. And Byron's verse does all that, which is why it's in the dustbin, because nobody knows how to read it anymore. But his letters and journals are a different thing completely. Here you have the man himself. I think this, if I remember correctly, this edition goes from some of the very earliest stuff, the notes that he was writing as an unhappy schoolboy back home, all the way to the very end of his life, to right before he rode off to Greek independence and died as a result of it. So it'll take you, these letters and journals take you straight through the major scandal of his life, the thing that drove him out of England. It takes you straight through him watching the sales figures for all of his latest poems and then trying hard to pretend that he wasn't watching those sales figures. And you also get a lot of glimpses, his wonderful, sometimes only a sentence, even part of a sentence, these amazing crystalline portraits of the people that he knows. That if most of them haven't merited major biographies of their own in the last 100 years, but if you ever find them, good Lord, you'll finish 600 pages and think, okay, he did it better in one sentence than this biographer did in 600 pages. And this, if you are interested in the letters and journals of Lord Byron, this is not going to be the only volume that you're going to have. You're also going to have a selected letters volume that includes a lot of the same letters that are in here. There's only a finite number of them, and a lot of them are key to understanding Byron. A lot of them are incredibly interesting on their own. They're just better reading than a lot of the dashed off notes to his publisher, wanting money, wanting a handout, wanting an advance. So those are going to duplicate in any collection of Byron's letters. So the only X factor is going to be the exposition. It's going to be the presence of the editor. What kind of a job do they do? Byron had a great biographer a long time ago. This biography will never come back into print. It was a multi-volume biography by a guy named Leslie Marchant. And it's incredible. Byron's had a lot of great biographies, especially in the second half of the 20th century, when I think the literary world sort of realized he's dead and gone. He's dead and gone, so why not do biographies of him? But Leslie Marchant's book are great. And Leslie Marchant did a one-volume abridgment of the multi-volume thing. That gets high praise from the editor here. I just found it in the back here. Leslie Marchant's ability to resist both the temptations, which is to pump Byron up or to tear him down, basically, makes his 1957 biography of the poet still the best one that has been published. Perhaps it will not be improved on. And you'll notice that our editor here doesn't mention the fact that Leslie Marchant edited a volume of Byron's letters. He did, and it's terrific. There's more plenitude here because you get more letters and you get more journals, and Byron research has crept forward in the last half century. But if you're interested in the subject, you have to have both volumes. You can't You can't say, well, this is the later one, so it supplants the earlier one. Even this editor wouldn't say that. The Marchant's collection of Byron's letters is something to have, but so is this one. The point is that this is a good example of the improvements that modern scholarship can bring to a subject that's already had a great job done with it. Like, for instance, Captain Cook, like the great navigator and seaman Captain Cook, has a gigantic, great biography by J.C. Beaglehole. And like this editor says, that biography will probably never be improved on. We're not going to encounter any more Cook letters or any more letters from his correspondence. We're not going to know any more about his finances or his logs or his routes than we do now. All of that information that was available to Beaglehole was then written about beautifully in a gigantic volume. So you could probably say that volume's never going to be exceeded, and yet someone could do a book on, it's been done a couple of times, someone could do a book on Captain Cook that takes into account 50 years of subsequent scholarship and maybe consults original native sources, oral accounts or written accounts from places that Cook went that didn't have a literature, things like that wouldn't have occurred to Beaglehole to do. So this is another example of that, where subsequent scholarship can actually bring a lot of worth to the table. You definitely, if you're interested in the subject, I'd first of all like to meet you, and second, you definitely want both. But this one, very pretty thing, very solid, nice to have. I already have a copy, so I don't need a second one. but that's your library tour of Doom for today. Who knows what tomorrow will be? I'm told there's a whole second floor here, so maybe I'll go exploring. Thank you, BookTube.